Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, and today we're going to be looking at the Senate map and to show you a very possible scenario that Republicans may actually win the Senate in a red wave election. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. And so before we get started with the video, if you would be kind enough to donate to the Michigan and Pennsylvania poll crowdfunding page, it would be greatly appreciated. Me and SoCal Research basically conduct polling for the 2024 cycle. We are on the 538 and New York Times aggregates now. We are trying to go for Michigan and Pennsylvania next, so any support would be greatly appreciated. And we're going to get back to the video. And so now essentially what I've done is I created an election model very similar to what I did for my presidential election model in the previous video, but what I do is I effectively have a single model that basically predicts that there was no top of the ticket, during that year. Like if there's no presidential ticket and you just had the incumbent's approval rating, what would the results be? And it shows that if this was, a pretty, unfavorable year, that it shows that Arizona would have gone Republican, it shows California would have gone Democrat, it shows Florida would have gone red by a point or so. It shows here that Maine at large would have been blue, Michigan still would have been blue, Montana would have been lean R, Nevada would have been tilt blue in that election. We also see for Ohio would have gone blue in that election, Wisconsin would have gone blue as well. So we clearly see there's a little bit of a shift here in terms of some of these races as of right now. So clearly we see a little bit of an unbalanced, Senate composition there. It is a little bit skewed, and the fact that Arizona goes red before a lot of the other ones do is a little strange, but that's what the modeling is showing there. And what I've done is I looked at the 2012 presidential, Senate to correlation. So basically it gets the results from the actual election and it looks at the Senate results, and it basically kind of tracks how correlated the model is, like how correlated the Senate elections are to the presidential results, or at least it's how correlated the presidential results are to the Senate results, and it shows a 0.4% correlation. And so what I've done is I have my current forecast for 2024 right here. And what I've done is I essentially have the polling data, the 2012 shift, 2018 shift, and we have the swing and the trend from both of those elections. And we effectively get the results here because they're averaged out with the presidential model. And if this was not a presidential year, I could basically just throw this out and use these as the final margins. But since this is a presidential year, the top of the ticket actually really influences what happens in a state, and it does play a factor. And so here are all the margins for the Senate elections as of right now, and we're going to be breaking these down as of right now. And so the state of Utah is going to be a safe Republican state, a 32-point victory in the forecast. Wyoming is going to be in the safe column. In the scenario, North Dakota is a 29-point victory. Nebraska's second is going to be in the safe Republican column. In the scenario, Mississippi will also be in that safe column. The state of Tennessee will be in the safe column, as well as the state of Indiana at 18 points. And we also have the state of West Virginia, which is actually the first flip on the map, believe it or not. There is actually a Democrat, incumbent there that is not running for re-election. If we actually go to 2018, we'll actually see that that senator actually only won by 3 points, despite the Democrats winning the Senate popular vote by 20. So that definitely is a really bad sign for Manchin. And I guess he saw the writing on the wall and was like, you know what, I'm going to end up going. There's no way I'm going to be able to win my next race. And so that's probably why he ended up dropping out of the election cycle. But now with the governor of the state being nominated as the Republican candidate, I really have a hard time seeing anybody even coming close to actually being able to win that election at all. At least a Democrat beating the Republican there. And so looking at all the states, that's actually all of the safe Republican states as of right now. For the safe Democrat states on the map, we can actually go through. Hawaii is a 19-point victory forecast. My model has Hawaii way closer on the presidential level, and that is going to have some down ballot effects. We also have the state of Maryland coming in at 19 points. Yes, guys, the race is not competitive. Everybody on election Twitter is saying, oh my God, it's going to be within 10. When you model it out, it's not going to be that close. Right now, it shows it as a 19-point victory in my forecast for Larry Hogan versus also Brooks in the state of Massachusetts. It is a 21-point victory. As of right now, Warren has a poll where she's up by 23, so that should be pretty accurate to that. And then we have the state of Rhode Island coming in at around 16 points for the Democrats there. And that's actually it. That's actually all of the safe Democrat states, and except Vermont. Vermont is safe in this map. Bernie Sanders is running for re-election, and I don't really expect them to have a hard time winning there. So that's actually it. Those are literally all the safe states on the map, including Hawaii. That's literally it, which is crazy to think about. Now, some of them on here are pretty close to being safe, but that's literally it. Those are all of the safe states essentially. And for the likely Republican states, we have Florida at 9 points for Rick Scott. The polling there is pretty interesting. I mean, the polling there does show, a likely, single-digit race. Texas, lower double-digit polling, and here it's actually a 14-point victory, so that's actually very fascinating there. Both of these races are going to be very easy holds for Democrats. Unlike what Let's Talk Elections will tell you, these races are not competitive whatsoever as of right now. If we look at the state of Missouri, we'll actually see that it is a 14.7 percentage point forecast. You got to understand, guys, even though this is a safe Republican state on the federal level, you actually see here that, Josh Hawley won by 6 in 2018. In 2012, that seat was actually a completely safe Democrat seat. So the inherent leaning of that seat has actually been, pretty blue for the most part. And we see McCaskill is literally barely losing this race, despite winning the popular vote by 20, at least the Democrats winning it by 20. So that seats inherently has some, ancestrally blue DNA. And so that's why it's not going to be like a 25-point victory. But Trump does boost it up to almost a safe margin. It's actually a plus 14.7 victory for Hawley. So that's kind of what I'm seeing there right now. An interesting one is Nebraska's main election. The polling there has actually been pretty close because Fisher, is not super unpopular, but it's not the most popular. And there's actually an independent candidate that's actually running against her right now. And the polling actually shows it as a pretty close race. Now, do I think it's going to be within 5? No. My modeling has it as a 13.4 percentage point win for her. And if you look at the previous results, it actually makes sense. Fisher won by 19 here. And in 2012, Fisher won by 15. So it actually kind of makes sense that the race would be like around 13-ish. Like, it's not like, out of this world. Like, oh my God, there's like, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where the model has it right now. Now, here are some of the more controversial picks that everyone's going to be like, what are you talking about? Montana is going to be a very likely victory for the Republicans. The model has it as a 13.7 percentage point win as of right now. It's actually a pretty easy victory for Sheehy. Now, this is a state where there is a Democrat incumbent senator, and everyone's like, it's actually going to be really close. But the problem is, number one, Republicans always get underestimated in polling data. In 2020, Steve Daines ended up winning the Senate seat by a couple points, and he was losing in the polls before the election, kind of like what Sheehy is, except Sheehy's actually leading now. And what's funny is that the Republican poll actually shows Montana being a 20-point win on the presidential level. My forecast has Montana as like a 29-point victory because I have Donald Trump winning the national popular vote by a lot more than what people think. And the polling errors on 538 in Montana are actually pretty bad. The polling average in 2020 only had Trump leading Montana by 4.4, and he ended up winning it by 16. So to say that my model is going to be off 9 points from a recent poll is not that crazy. And if we look at this, we also see that this seat, despite the Democrat national environment getting basically 8 points more Democrat from 2012 to 2018, the seat basically did not move at all. The seat literally actually got 0.1 percentage points closer, despite the popular vote getting 8 points more Democrat. This should have been a really easy race for Tester, but that's not the case at all, actually. It is really not the case. And so that is the big problem for Tester, is that we're expecting a much closer national environment, because this is the first time that these candidates are going to be on a presidential ballot since Barack Obama in 2012, literally 12 years ago. And the electorate is completely different. I mean, you're talking about Heidi Heitkamp winning North Dakota Senate seat. Yes, she was an incumbent, but Barack Obama realistically actually got her across the finish line here for the most part. If it wasn't for Barack Obama, Heidi Heitkamp probably wouldn't have won the state of North Dakota. So it is kind of interesting to see that there. And we even see Kramer winning by 10 here. So clearly there is a shift going on. And I actually have the calculated popular vote here. When you model out all the states together, it's actually a 0.2 percentage point victory. And right now in Montana, I have Trump winning it by 29. There is no way that Sheehy is going to underperform Trump's margin by 29 points, or even 25 at that. And so right now, Trump is just winning the state by way too much as well for it to not be a seismic victory. So yes, I have it as a 13-point win. In the state of Ohio, I have it as a 7-point victory for Moreno. Yes, he's winning it by 7 points. The 2022 Senate race margin was actually pretty close to that result. And once again, if we go to my Ohio margin, I have Trump winning it by 21.5 percentage points in my latest model, which is not crazy. If you look at the average, it's 11, 12 points in polling. The polls there have been off by 7 to 8 points, favoring Democrats every single time in the polling errors. And so if you were to apply that same polling error that's literally happened the same 2 cycles, you get around a 19 to 21 point victory, the same thing that my model is showing. So again, Donald Trump is winning the state of Ohio by way too much in order for it to actually be a competitive race. He will carry Moreno to the finish line, and pretty easily actually, believe it or not. And the next thing we're going to be looking at here as well, if we go through the results here, that is actually it for all of the actually there is one more likely Republican seat, and everyone's gonna freak out about this one. Everyone's gonna be like, oh my god, you're crazy, there's no way. It's the state of Arizona. I have it as a likely margin in my forecast. Kari Lake here is projected to win it by 5.7%. Again, polling data here has been pretty off in Senate elections. I mean, you basically had Sinema winning the race by way more than what she actually won it by. And again, guys, if you look here, in 2018, by the way, Sinema's not even running, so they don't even have their incumbent running. That's already going to give them a disadvantage. They don't even have the incumbent senator running. That's already a problem. And you have somebody like Kari Lake, well, while, yes, she did lose the gubernatorial race, she barely lost it. It was actually one of the better results for Republicans. I mean, she was the closest one to picking off a seat, unlike anybody else in the Rust Belt. And on top of that, this was a D+20 Senate national environment. I'm expecting something way closer, especially since Trump is projected to win the popular vote by 9 points in my forecast. And so if you're going off of that, there's no way that Arizona is going to go blue. And it's probably not going to even be that close. And ticket splitting in a state like Arizona is not that common. I mean, if you look at 2020, we see Biden won the state by 0.3%. Kelly won her seat by 2.3%. And we see here Kelly won by 4.9 in an off year. But I mean, there's polls that have Trump up 5 to 11 points in the state of Arizona. There was even a plus 15 poll out of Arizona. So it's like you can't really you can't really expect the state to be going blue or for it to be even remotely competitive. So yes, my model does have it as a 5.7 percentage point win, and that's factoring in with Joe Biden being unpopular. I mean, if Biden was way popular, if Biden had the same approval rating that he did last time in the 2020 election, all the Senate races would be a little closer. I mean, yeah, Arizona would be a 3-point win for Kari Lake instead of a 6-point win pretty much. A lot of these races would be a lot closer. Now, it wouldn't be enough for him to flip. He would flip back a couple. Yeah, he would flip back a few, but it wouldn't be enough for it to be like a humongous difference either. And with Trump on top of the ticket, it would be a big deal. Now, here it does show if Biden was actually Even if Biden was down by 8 points, which is actually, by the way, what he was down by in the 2022 midterms, if he was down 8 points in approval, it actually does show Arizona going to Gallego. It's a 0.12 percentage point victory if that was the case. But right now, the guy is just too unpopular. The guy is too unpopular for it to even be remotely competitive. If this were an off year, it actually shows Kari Lake winning the seat by 1.7%. So the only reason why Donald Trump or Kari Lake is winning it by almost 6 is because Donald Trump is winning the state by 11.6% in my forecast. So that is why you're seeing such a lopsided victory in some of these races. In the state of California, I actually have Donald Trump only losing the state by around 11 points, like 12 points, which I know sounds crazy, but Donald Trump is improving with Asian voters across the board. That's why his Hawaii margin's a lot closer. That's why his New Jersey margin's a lot closer. That's why California's margin is a lot closer, because in polling, national polling data, he's either tied, a few points behind, or well ahead with the Asian vote, unlike last time where Biden won that group by 30, 40 points nationwide. So you're definitely seeing a pretty big seismic shift. And so right now, the Senate race is actually a 14.5 point victory. And that's with Steve Garvey also being a pretty popular Republican candidate there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the state actually be under a 15 point victory as of right now. And by the way, we're getting into the likely Democrat states. The next one is Washington. It's a 9 point race. Now, you're going to say, oh, Lester, you're crazy. There's no way that Washington's going to be a 9 point win. But what if we go to Washington? What do we see over here right now? If we go to the state of Washington, we see Cantwell in the latest poll for May leads by 9 percentage points. You also have to understand the fact that Cantwell is a big underperformer. If you look at 2018, she only won in a D plus 20 national environment for the Senate. She won by 17 points. So the seat actually voted to the right of the Senate environment, which is crazy. And if you look at 2012, it was a 12-point win, and it was only a 20-point victory. Biden won the state by 20 in a D plus 4 national environment. So compared to the national environment, she's actually always been an underperformer. Even if we go back to like 2000 and what would it be, 6? Look, D plus 12, the same thing as 2012. In 2006, which was a bad year for Bush, and you see Cantwell only wins by 17. So realistically, she's actually been a pretty big underperformer in the Senate. She's always been underperforming. And this is the first time she's going to be on a presidential ballot since 2012. And I'm not really expecting her to win by over 15 points, especially since Donald Trump is coming pretty close in the state of Washington. I mean, the polling for him there is pretty good too. So that's why you're going to see that victory be a likely margin in the state there as well. If we go to the state of Virginia, that right now in my model is a 5-point win. Hung Kao is a really good recruit out of the state of Virginia for the Republicans. So I expect them to show up strong, but Kane has been there for a really long time. They're running the incumbent. The polling there looks really good for Kane. Now, again, there's only one poll that has Kane up by 12. If there's a poll that comes out that has Kane up by 2 points, if we were to apply that to the model, the race literally gets cut in half. It's like a 2-point victory if that happens. And if there's polling and it shows Hung Kao ahead, let's say he's ahead by 3, the model shows the race being a tilt race. So the only reason why Hung Kao is losing by 5 right now is because there's been one poll that has Kane up 12 in the state. That's literally the only reason why. If more polling data comes out, I expect this race to get a lot closer if the polling data is competitive for the most part. Again, Donald Trump is helping him out in the state, get to the finish line. So that's definitely a big reason there. In the state of New York, we have the incumbent Democrat senator who's not really popular, by the way. There's polling that shows her going against a generic Republican and losing by 2, which is really fascinating. But when you model it out, it actually shows the senator actually winning by 12.5 there. And Donald Trump's only losing the state by about 6 in my forecast. So Donald Trump, again, is helping her with coattails. So it's definitely making a big difference there. But clearly, we do see that being somewhat competitive. Now, Connecticut here is a 14-point victory for the Democrats. Delaware is a 12-point win. So these seats, don't really got to worry about them, to be honest. Now, the New Jersey one is going to get interesting. The New Jersey one's going to get interesting because I have not updated the polling because I can't find the other Republican internals on 538. So I don't know what they were. But Democrats are freaking out about the seat. There's a reason why the Democrats have been in shambles after the debate. And it's because they know that Donald Trump is probably going to win and win pretty big. The Republican internal data or the Democrat internal polling data shows Donald Trump winning Nevada by 7 points. And Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania are like all over 4-point victories. You think the Senate candidates are going to be able to comfortably win if Donald Trump would win any of the states by at least over 4? No, that's why they're freaking out, because they know they're screwed. They know they're screwed after the debate because the top of the ticket has a big impact. And if Biden can't play defense in certain states, that's going to really be a big problem. And New Jersey, you have the incumbent senator running as an independent candidate, which is super weird. And so you don't have the incumbent, and the incumbent is running as an independent. So this seat, and Donald Trump is coming pretty close to winning the state, actually. He's actually only losing it by 1.1% in my forecast. And just to let you know, the latest poll out of the state, if we actually go here, the latest polling actually has it as like a 6-point win. Look, literally from coefficient, the same Republican internal that has Trump up by 1, and I have Donald Trump losing by 1, the same internal has Kim winning by 6 points with Menendez included. So for those people saying, oh, there's no way it's going to happen, there's no way this map is possible, a lot of the polling data actually points to this Senate map that I have right here actually being very plausible results. Now, going into the lean Democrat states, we have New Mexico at just 4 points. And by the way, about New Mexico, the latest polling has the Democrat up there by like 2 or 3 points. Like, it's not, this is not crazy, guys. I'm like being so serious. The latest polling literally has the Democrat up there by like 2 or 3, and I have them up 4. So to say that, oh no, this is going to be wrong is not, I mean, it could be wrong by a couple points, but it's not going to be the Democrat winning the seat by 10. It's not going to happen. Maybe the Democrats wins by 6 or 7, but not by, it's not going to be that bad of an error. That's all I'm saying. Now, I did forget to include Minnesota in the likely Democrat column. Now, the thing about Minnesota is that the incumbent senator, Amy Klobuchar, does have a really big advantage there, and she is kind of an electoral juggernaut. I mean, she won by 24 points on the same ballot that a special election candidate won by 10. And in 2012, she won by like 34 points. So that is pretty crazy. Now, her seat is trending to the right because, I mean, this seat did get 10 points more Republican while the National Environment got 8 points more Republican. So it did trend to the right by quite a bit. But when you look at polling data and when you look at historical voting patterns in the state here, and Donald Trump not winning the state by enough, that's why it is still a really large victory. So she is effectively a really big electoral juggernaut. Like, literally, Biden is super unpopular. Trump is actually winning the state right now by a point or two. And even with all of that, it is still going to be a 13.5-point victory for her in the Senate here as of right now. In Nevada, well, actually, we need to do the other lean Democrat state. Maine at large. Angus King has had pretty good elections, but the problem for him is, again, Donald Trump is winning Maine at large right now, so that's definitely going to affect his performance in the state. And when you look at the state's trend, I mean, King won it by 19 and D plus 20. In 2012, when it was D plus 12, King won by 22. So the seat is trending to the right a little bit. And I expect a way closer environment. So, I mean, if it's D plus, if the national environment is just D plus 5, I mean, the seat's going to be a 5-point win. And if Donald Trump is on the ballot, it's going to make it closer. So it's just looking at historical voting trends and looking at the actual popular vote here. Because right now I have it tied. Like, the popular vote, when you model it out, is basically tied. And so it makes a lot of sense, though, because here in Wisconsin, D plus 20, it was a 10-point win. Now it's tied. It's a 3-point victory. I'm going to get to that in a second for Hove Day. That's a 13-point shift with the national environment shifting 20. I expect this Senate seat to trend to the left nationally. So really, I'm actually possibly even underestimating certain Senate candidates if you really look at it that way. Now, trends are a little bit more elastic on the Senate level, but I actually have something called an elasticity score for every single state. So if we go down here, you actually see, if you look at the shift from 2012 to 2018, I actually conduct something called an elasticity score that basically looks at how likely a state is to shifting by a certain amount. So the one that actually is most likely to shift is Tennessee. Believe it or not, it actually had the biggest shift, which is really interesting. So it has an elasticity score of 1, but every single state here clearly has a score of less than 1, but it kind of tracks how likely a state is to shift compared to all of the rest of the shifts nationally. And so that's why you see something like that. That's why Maine at Large's seat is not Republican right now, because it is not that elastic. Same thing for Wisconsin. That's why you see it not really be such a big thing, because it is theoretically not as elastic. Even if I go down here to Wisconsin, we see that it is trending and shifting to the left. So that's why the model has it trending and shifting to the left. So everything's just kind of adding up. And now all the Democrat states are done. They're literally at 43 seats. That's literally it. And yes, you heard me correctly. The Rust Belt is going to go red right now. Nevada is a 4.6 percentage point win for Sam Brown. Sam Brown is a former military combatant. He did go through a little bit of a pretty bad accident, and so he got the nomination there really easily. The incumbent Democrat has been there for a long time. The Republican candidate last time in 2022 barely lost because of a snowstorm, and they still elected the Republican candidate despite them running the incumbent Democrat. And with Donald Trump improving with Hispanic voters, the polling there is always off in favor of Democrats on the Senate level. It's always off, especially during the presidential years. And so that's why I think you're going to see the victory be pretty easy there. And in the Rust Belt, Eric Hovde and Tammy Baldwin are tied, by the way. They're tied, just to let you know. They're tied in their average now. And I have it as a 3-point win in my model. Again, Donald Trump in my forecast is winning the state by 12.5, which, again, I know it's not popular for you to think that Donald Trump is winning in a landslide, but when you look at my last video and you look at the modeling for every single state and how I'm kind of doing it, it makes a lot more sense that Donald Trump would be winning states like Wisconsin by a pretty big amount as of right now. And when you look at this, again, Donald Trump, Eric Hovde is not going to underperform Trump by 12. Now, he is underperforming him by 9, which is something I do expect. Like, I totally think if Donald Trump was barely winning Wisconsin, I 100% believe that Tammy Baldwin would be winning this thing very easily. Like, it would actually be a really easy win. It would be a super easy victory right now. And if we look at Pennsylvania, the polling aggregate has it close. I mean, it's close. Latest polling has literally Bob Casey winning by like 1 or 2 points. And I have it as a point victory for McCormick. Now, again, Pennsylvania on the federal level is a 9.8 percentage point win. I don't expect McCormick to lose the seat if Trump is winning it by 10. Now, if Trump was winning the state by 5, I would expect McCormick to lose. Like, I don't think people realize how much these Senate candidates are underperforming Trump. But since Trump has gained a lot from the debate, he's starting to gain in certain states. He's just winning by so much right now. That's why I have him. That's why I have some of these candidates winning races that it wouldn't make sense. But again, a lot of polling data doesn't take into effect down ballot races. It doesn't take into effect the coattail effect. That's why polling data for Senate races in presidential years is always super off. We were talking about Mississippi flipping to the Democrat in 2020. And look, Heidi Smith won it by 10. So it's like, and polling had her down here by like 5 to 10 points. Like, you're talking about a 15, 20 point miss. You had polling in South Carolina having Graham losing. You had polling having McConnell losing. Like, you're talking about really big polling misses. Even, Daines won by 10. Polling had him down here, and he ended up winning by 10. And Bullock was an incumbent, by the way. Just to let you know, Daines beat an incumbent Democrat senator here. Just FYI. So, again, all historical voting patterns and historical polling data and signs point to the Republicans winning really easily right now in the Senate. Now, again, if the presidential race was a lot closer, this wouldn't be the case. But right now, since Donald Trump is doing so good, this is why the Republicans are going to get 57 Senate seats. Donald Trump is carrying some of these Senate candidates to the finish line. If we look at Michigan right now, it is a 0.6 percentage point win for Mike Rogers. He is narrowly winning the seat. On the presidential level, it is an 8.5 point victory. So I guess Donald Trump is outrunning Mike Rogers by about 8 points, which seems pretty realistic. And again, the polling data has this race close. I mean, the polling data here has Slotkin winning it by 2. And just to let you know, the incumbent here is not running. Mike Rogers this is an open seat effectively. So Donald Trump actually has more room to kind of play with the seat. And on top of that, it actually voted to the right of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania Senate seat back in 2018. So again, all the signs are pointing to a victory for Mike Rogers. And even when you look, Stabenow in a D+20 national environment for Democrats won by 6.5. So it's like, yeah, you could say that she could win. It's definitely possible. I'm not saying it's not possible for her to win. But right now the model shows Mike Rogers winning by 0.6, and it's a very real possibility that he ends up winning as of right now. So that's it for this video, guys. Republicans, according to my Senate model, are at 57 Republican Senate seats to Democrats' 43 Senate seats as of right now. Make sure to go ahead and hit the like button if you did enjoy this analysis. Make sure to go ahead and follow Twitter and join the Discord server in the description down below. And make sure to go ahead and donate to our funding for the Michigan and Pennsylvania poll crowdfunding. We are 25% of the way there. So any support would be greatly appreciated as of right now. And I will see you guys in the next video.